If you find yourself in need of legal representation, it can be a very stressful time in your life. In my career, I have dealt with thousands of lawyers, I've dealt with thousands of law firms, and I can confidently recommend to you Keith M. Davidson at kmdlaw.com. Available 24 hours, 7 days a week. Just log into kmdlaw.com. That's kmdlaw.com. Or you can call toll-free 833-4KMD-LAW. That's 833-4KMD-LAW. Personal injury, wrongful death, STDs, sexual assault, car accidents. They handle it all efficiently and professionally. It doesn't matter how imposing the opposition may be, because the team at kmdlaw.com are battle-tested and fierce. They will not stop until justice prevails. Go to kmdlaw.com or call toll-free 833-4KMD-LAW. If you're in for the fight of your life, stop screwing around and contact KMD Law.
Before Epstein was the Franklin cover-up. Before that, the Finders. And long before that, the Cleveland Street Scandal. Pedogate Primer is a concise intro and overview of a growing child abuse epidemic worldwide. It features shocking instances of institutionalized and organizational pedophilia throughout history. Churches, cults, the world of arts and entertainment, the government, NGOs, charities, and major corporations are all complicit or culprits in many instances. Pedogate Primer delves into material that for many may seem like the stuff of conspiracy theories. For this reason, the book draws on academic resources, declassified documents, and other reliable sources, and steers clear of conjecture. Such shocking true stories need no embellishment.
Emailrevealer.com. People ask me all the time, hey Ed, are you still a private investigator? I sure am. Go to emailrevealer.com. We handle adoption investigations, infidelity investigations, where you give us your spouse's email address. We trace it back to online dating websites, catch them cheating online. Email tracing, locate or identify somebody from as little as an anonymous email address. Someone owe you money? Back child support? We can find that deadbeat, locate his hidden assets, locate his hidden bank accounts, find his current place of employment, and even assist you in obtaining a judgment and recover that judgment for you. Emailrevealer.com. Digital forensics, computer forensics, cell phone forensics, recover deleted text messages. Create a report that you can use in court. Emailrevealer.com, 800-572-9762. The Opperman Report is brought to you by Aquadam.net. You can give them a call at 707-764-2119. A flooded home is never easy to deal with. You're left with the mess to clean up, the insurance companies to deal with, and not to mention all the memories, the precious memories that are lost in the flood. You can never replace those. And Aquadam can be a tool in your arsenal to protect your home and property from the floodwaters. The cofferdam is filled with water to control water and is reusable as long as it's taken care of. It can protect your home or business from rising floodwaters like a dam, but without the beavers. It can also be used in construction. If you need an area to be dewatered, an Aquadam can do the job. An Aquadam was used at SeaWorld in Orlando for the Mako roller coaster ride during the coaster's construction by dewatering the work area. An Aquadam is now dewatering the work area at San Antonio SeaWorld for their newest roller coaster ride. An Aquadam has been used in many construction projects all around the U.S. and all around the world. Now give Aquadam a call, 707-764-2119. You can look them up online at aquadam.net. You can find them on Facebook at Aquadam Inc. You call them up, you email them, you tell them Ed Opperman sent you, and they're going to take 10% off the price. Aquadam.net, 707-764-2119.
It's the Opperman Report. Join digital forensic investigator and PI Ed Opperman for an in-depth discussion of conspiracy theories, strategy of New World Order resistance, high-profile court cases in the news, and interviews with expert guests and authors on these topics and more. It's the Opperman Report. And now, here is investigator Ed Opperman.
Okay, welcome to the Opperman Report. I'm your host, private investigator Ed Opperman. You can find me at Opperman Investigations and Digital Forensic Consulting through my website, emailrevealer.com, or you can email me directly at oppermaninvestigations@gmail.com if you need a private investigator to help you out with your problems, which so many of you seem to happen to have. Okay. It's amazing what a bunch of troubled listeners I have. Hey, if you like the show, check out our Patreon. We got the, I tell you, look at some of these other characters' Patreons, man. They got like 10% of the content that I have up there. I'm constantly putting up new content, and I just can't build up the subscribers. I don't know what it is, man. It just makes no sense. Anyway, I think maybe I put up too much content. Maybe that's it. You get too much stuff for free. Got to start cutting back. Like those drug dealers right on the corner. The first one's free, and they get you hooked. And they got to pay through the nose. They got to be out there stealing car stereos for me and mail them to me. That's what we got to do. Or snatching those gold chains like they used to do back in Manhattan in the 80s on the subway. Anyway, our Patreon, you can go there for as little as $3 a month and get all this content you hear here. And people love to complain about the ads, so you can, go there for ad-free and not hear any ads if you go to Patreon. Otherwise, they have brand new exclusive content up there. And we're always putting up more. In fact, tomorrow I'm going to be putting up a show I did. I forget her name, Suzanne something. And she wrote a book called The Altar Boys about these about an unusual case, because in this case, the whistleblower was a priest. Who was blowing the whistle on these other Catholic church priests who were busy blowing someone else. Okay. So anyway, we got that going on. And then there's another show I'm going to put up on there. What happened was we had a little mishap. And I taped a show with this woman, this poker blackjack dealer from Las Vegas, about funny stories in casinos. Second half didn't come out, but it's fine for a half-hour show. We'll put that up there too, because this week, I've had a really crazy busy week, and I've been sick, and I got sick a couple of times. I don't feel so good right now. After the show tonight, we're putting up a Subliminal Jihad. It's a podcast, these guys, right? And they did all this great research on Colonel Michael Aquino. Now, they like to call him Aquino, but I know a lot of Filipinos, man. I know the name Aquino very well. I don't know anybody else who does not pronounce Aquino as Aquino, okay? So for me, for the rest of my life, it's Aquino. I don't care what this guy wanted to call himself. And then I have this other friend here, Bryce Regal, coming on after that. And Bryce has a theory that alternative rock band that he was fans of, the leader of the band came to a demise. And he believes it was a murder and not accidental death. So he lays out his case for it there. Okay. Oh, boy. Sorry. Okay. Here we go. This week I'm taping with Brace Belden from TrueAnon Podcast. And then hopefully we'll have the ex-wife, the widow of Marvin Gaye, and the roommate of Jodi Arias. I'm hoping I can get my act together here. Maybe even get some help over here now. I had a really good week. Got a lot of stuff done. Got a lot of work done this week. I'm really proud of the stuff I've done this week. I had a few things, like right before the show. I had to speak to some woman. I'm trying to help her out, man. It's just, it's a hopeless situation. I'm just all drained from it. I have to deal with these conversations all day long. They're very traumatic and traumatizing. Trauma is the word. I had this when I first got saved, and I got saved in Las Vegas on my birthday, September 9th. I think it was 1989. And then I had to move from Vegas back to Staten Island, and I found a great church over there right away. And one day, I needed to talk to the pastor about something, so went up to him, initiated a conversation with him. And he said to me, he goes, you have the most uncanny way of talking to people. And I wasn't sure if that was an insult or if it was a compliment, But I came to take it as a compliment for sure, because what happened was I had so much influence. I'm a brand new baby Christian. But I really threw myself into it. I became the assistant youth pastor right away. And had a lot of influence in the church. And when lay people would get up to speak at the church, different times, very often they would say, and earlier in the week I was talking to Eddie Opperman, and we were talking about that, and I would be the impetus or the inspiration for the message that week, which always kind of inspired me, But another thing he said to me one day was, he goes, you know so many people. He says, Ed, man, you just know everybody. And it's true. I do. I know a lot of people in my whole life. People find it very easy to talk to me and confide in me and to come to me for help or, just socialize with me. It's very easy. And people trust me, for good reason. I really don't screw with people. Then what happened was, but when you meet a lot of people and you know a lot of people, you also know a lot of people that have tragedy in their life. And that's what I'm going to try and tell you about a story about that tonight. The story of the Halseth family. We had, me and Vic around 2000, we had stopped attending that church in Las Vegas, the one I got saved in, for various reasons. One was there was an issue of some of the, a couple of pastors, there were some money things too. But one of the pastors, we got saved at the exact same time that he was a pastor at the church. And I always envied him for that, that he had gone into full-time ministry and I didn't when I really wanted to. And but I know that he was my daughter Victoria's children's pastor, And he was good at what he did. But I know that he was jealous that of Victoria's natural faith, and that his kids didn't have that natural faith that Victoria had at the time. We neither of us are so strong in our faith right now, to be honest with you. Okay, we're kind of one of those dry spells of life. I remember there was one time we were at this men's breakfast, and this young dad was sitting there complaining. He says, my kids are so, they're too bad. These kids are crazy. He goes, and I want to punish these kids. My wife says, give them a timeout for 5 minutes. I said, no way, man. Put them in timeout for a half hour. Give them an hour in timeout. And I says, well, how old are the kids? And he goes, oh, they're 4 and 5. And I says, no, man. I says, when they're that age, it's 1 minute per year. If a kid's 3 years old, you give them a 3-minute timeout. If they're 4 years old, you give them a 4-minute timeout. Because otherwise they forget what they're in timeout for. They forget why they're being punished. They're sitting there, they're playing games. They're playing with their foot. A 4-year-old's going to sit there and play with his fun little toe, And he goes, what? And everybody else at the table says, oh, no, Eddie, trust us. Eddie got the greatest kid in the world. Ed Opperman has the greatest. This kid is so good. Whatever he's doing, parents, he's doing the right thing. So you should listen to him. And so I had that, encouragement. But we also had some other issues in that church, too. I don't want to get into the whole beef about it, but they're very right-wing, patriotic, military, things. I didn't like that, and you can listen why when you hear the second part of the program tonight, the second hour. Subliminal Jihad comes on and tells us all about Michael Aquino, this high-ranking military officer, satanic worship, and all kinds of allegations about child abuse and ritual abuse. I don't support the military just for that one reason, but many other reasons too. Global imperialism. So anyway. I think the straw that broke the camel's back with that church, and I think I told this story on the air before. Around that time, me and Vic really got into that TV show, Real Housewives of New Jersey. Okay. And Vic had this little friend. She was about 10 years old, and she had this little friend she played basketball with. Remember when Vic used to play with me? I used to coach her basketball team. I used to talk about that all the time. And so she had this friend, this little boy who played basketball with her. And he didn't live with his parents, though. He lived with his sisters. And when we went around trick-or-treating on Halloween, I met his sisters. They were like 24, 25 years old, 26. And after that, because they were into Real Housewives, too. So after the kids would go to bed, they would come over and they'd bring little snacks. I'd make little hors d'oeuvres and stuff like that. And they'd bring all this freaking wine. They would bring like 3 bottles of wine each for each of us, or those big jugs, with the handle, on the wine, the red wine, and we would watch this. We would and then they'd always get into a fight too, the 2 girls. But and we would talk about different things, and they said to me, if we were ever to go to a church, we would go to the church that you go to because of the way you talk and the way you're not a hypocrite, and that's the church we would want to go to. Because I was always being invited to church with us. I think the kid went to church with us one time. So what happened was, as a surprise to me, they decided on a Wednesday night they were going to come down to the church and surprise me. So I sat right in the front, always. And I sat in the exact same seat that I got saved in 30 years earlier. I sat in that same seat, if I could, every time I got there. If someone got to it first, I'd have to smack them in the head with my Bible and get them out of my seat, But so then they told me, I didn't see him. And they told me a couple of weeks later, in fact, we had a third friend over at the house. And she just said so emotionally, I will never go back to that church. The way they made us feel. And what happened was there was a guy who went there. And Victoria actually used to call him the guy I don't like. Okay, we had a lot of problems with this guy. I don't want to waste too much time because I got a really good story to tell you. But the guy was a real nudge, and he was part of this plan, the anti-abortion thing, and he had like a Filipino wife with 6 kids, and he used to make his kids memorize the Bible verses, which I never saw any point in that. This kind of stuff has to come naturally. And he would position himself from the parking lot into the church. There was like a hallway, and he would position himself there so that everybody had to pass by him so he could greet them, running for mayor or whatever this guy was doing. So when they were coming into the church, and they were dressed nice, but they were wearing heels, and they were wearing like Sunday clothes. It wasn't not Wednesday night clothes. They were wearing Sunday morning church clothes, like dresses and heels and stuff. But I know these girls weren't dressed like for a nightclub or something like that. And as they were walking in, he didn't recognize them, and he made some comment to them like, "Oh, ladies, are you lost? Boy, you're really dressed up to come to church." Some really stupid comments, And what was really turned them off, though, the pastor wasn't there that week, so some other guy was running the show, the Bible study, and he got up to make this announcement, because he's one of these guys in church that always has to get up and make an announcement and draw attention to himself, make a big speech, about how he confronted some people in front of the abortion clinic and he prevented an abortion, and it's just really, and when I was listening to this thing, I said, "Oh my God, this guy's pathetic." And when they told me that they heard that the first day they walked into a church, I knew they'd never come back. Because if I saw this guy, I'd never come back. So that was one of the reasons why we left that church. And we started shopping around for different churches, and there was even a period of time we didn't have a car; we had to walk. We'd have to walk like a half hour, 45 minutes to get to a church. All right. And so we found this one little church. It was quite a distance away, but it was pretty good. It was a large church. The people seemed pretty cool. They weren't crazy. And we used to sit up, right by the exit. So, we could get out of there fast and get to our car. But, we don't have a car. We had to walk. And get back out on the road and start hiking back to our home. And we're sitting there. And the pastor tells this story. This is the last time we went there. I almost got up and walked out in the middle, and everybody would have seen us because of the way we were positioned, or even said to him, "Hey, man, you're nuts." He tells us this story about how Oliver North was visiting Las Vegas to speak before again, one of these anti-abortion groups. And he's all giddy because he get to meet Ollie North, right? And I'm sitting there thinking, "Oh my God, what a gullible fool," And he tells a story that Ollie North told this story that when he was in combat, okay, and the press was there watching this battle go back and forth, and so the enemy was shot down, right? And some of the American soldiers ran out into the heat of the battle and picked up the enemy soldier and dragged them back and started giving him medical attention. And the press was yelling, "What are you doing? That's the enemy. That's the other guy." And Ollie told him, "That's what we do. We're Americans. We're here to liberate these people and to help them, not to watch them suffer and die." Okay, that's this. I believe Ollie North told that story. Do I believe it? Not for a second. Okay, he makes the press out to be the bad guy and the American soldiers be these heroes, as occupying forces. So that was our last time that we went to that church. But at that church, okay, one day gets up to speak. And we have here Elizabeth Halstead. How do you pronounce this name? I got to pull it up. Elizabeth Halstead. And she's running for state senate here in Nevada, District 9. Come on up and talk to the audience here. And I remember hearing this and thinking, well, that's interesting. I think I even chatted with her. Very, very pretty. I can remember. Beautiful girl. Okay? And then beautiful kids. And her husband was there too with her. Now, later, by coincidence, okay, because she was elected to Nevada State Senate, right? District 9, in November of 2010. Okay, she was elected. And I remember her when she got elected because there was this bit of controversy. See, in the primary, she was running against this guy named Dennis Nolan, okay, who wasn't quite as conservative as her. And what happened was, Halseth got her hands on a voicemail message that Dennis Nolan left on his ex-wife's voicemail. Okay? No, I'm sorry. It wasn't his ex-wife. He had a client or a constituent that he was helping out, a guy named Gordon Laws. And Dennis Nolan called up the Gordon Laws' ex-wife and left a message for her. Because what happened was, Gordon Laws, I think, went to prison for 10 years for raping his ex-wife's 16-year-old little sister. And the senator from Nevada was calling up and saying, it would be very financially beneficial for you to tell the truth. Okay, and he got caught doing that. Now, I know all the details of this situation, okay, and all the people involved. I know about the tape's existence, about it being shopped around, about the value of the tape, and it's a real skullduggery type story, because you never believe the people who released the tape thought that this was going to make the Democrats win. Okay, because no one thought that this Elizabeth Halseth had a chance to win. But when she released it, she won the primary, and then she beat the Democratic. But everyone behind this tape and the release of this tape thought that the Democrats would win. The Democrats were behind it. I can say that much. So she gets elected, and she becomes a representative of Nevada there, right? And then the first thing that happens is there's this crazy incident where she calls her mother and says, hey, my husband's acting crazy and possessive. He took away my phone. I have this other old phone that I'm calling you from, but he took away my phone. I'm not allowed to leave the house. And he's forcing me to have sex with him. And he says that if I don't obey him like the Bible tells me to obey him, he's going to destroy me. He's going to ruin me. So the mother hops on a plane. She flies down to Vegas to see what's going on with my daughter. What the hell's going on here? She gets to the house. There's no one there. So she calls the cops. Okay? Everybody needs a mother like that. You know what I mean? Everybody needs a mother that's going to hop on a plane from Oregon, man, and defend your daughter from her abusive husband. If this guy was really that abusive. When they come back to the house, the husband, what's his name? Daniel Halseth, that he had just taken her to a church counselor, okay? And when the cops questioned him about the stuff about forcing her to have sex and all this kind of stuff like that, he says, oh, no. I had planned out that whole scenario as a joke to get her attention. He winds up getting arrested. And he winds up pleading guilty for battery and lewdness, all kinds of unwanted touching, all kinds of stuff like that. So she's a new congresswoman there, right? And now her husband's, and he filed for divorce against her. She's only in there a couple of years, and she resigns. She kind of had to resign. Because what happened was she got overwhelmed, even in her own statement of her resignation, she got overwhelmed with the duties of raising her child and trying to run this position here in the state Senate. And she was missing meetings, not returning phone calls. And the legislature was actually going to hold a hearing about, hey, what do we do about this state senator here who's not returning calls and not showing up for work and not signing off on a paperwork? She's MIA. What do we do about this? And as soon as she heard that that was coming down, she quit. Well, let's see. She quit in February 17th, 2012. And in May of 2012, after her recent resignation from the Senate, she appears in Maxim's Hot 100 edition of Maxim magazine. Maxim really has hot girls in it, so you can imagine. In fact, if you look her up, you can see the pictures. I looked them up to see the pictures, I confess. Gorgeous woman. Okay, gorgeous woman. But way back then in 2012, she's already having trouble with her kids, okay? The kids are acting up. The kids had to be aware of this whole incident with the, it was in all the papers about their dad getting arrested for abusing their mother, and about him forcing her sex, and about the Maxim cover probably didn't go over too well, too, with the kids' middle school at that age back in 2012, you know what I mean? So the poor kids were exposed to a lot of stuff. And you can even go on Mr. Daniel Halseth on his Facebook page, which is still up, and you could see some videos from around that time. And one of them, he's acting goofy and he's dancing for the kids. You know, he seems like a decent guy. Who knows? You know those guys you see him at church too. They're just a little too. And she said too, he's a good father. Even though he was ordered to have no contact with her whatsoever, but according to her, they still have a joint bank account, and he's a good father to the kids. Okay. And you could still see videos, like I said, of his kids. There's one especially of his young daughter where she had just gotten out of the shower or the bath or something like that, and she's wearing like a robe, and you see she's still shivering, under the thing. And well, I tell you, this is a good time to take a commercial break, because when I come back, we're going to get into the dismemberment. Okay? The Dismemberies and Dazed and Dismembered. Okay? I got to tell you, folks, this show does not have a happy ending. Okay? And it's a gruesome ending. Okay? And this is a family I was in the same room with on more than one occasion. We'll be right back after these messages. You're listening to the Opperman Report. I'm your host, Ed Opperman. You can find me on Twitter at Opperman Report, on Instagram at Opperman Report, and on Patreon. Tons of exclusive content on Patreon if you look up The Opperman Report on Patreon. But be sure to check us out on Spreaker, where we have a great chat room, and you get an email notification anytime we put up new content. We'll be right back with more of the story of the tragic Halseth family after these messages. And now a word from our sponsors. The Opperman Report is brought to you by Aquadam.net. You can give them a call at 707-764-2119. A flooded home is never easy to deal with. You're left with the mess to clean up, the insurance companies to deal with, and not to mention all the memories, the precious memories that are lost in the flood. You can never replace those. And Aquadam can be a tool in your arsenal to protect your home and property from the floodwaters. The cofferdam is filled with water to control water and is reusable as long as it's taken care of. It can protect your home or business from rising floodwaters like a dam, but without the beavers. It can also be used in construction. If you need an area to be dewatered, an Aquadam can do the job. An Aquadam was used at SeaWorld in Orlando for the Mako roller coaster ride during the coaster's construction by dewatering the work area. An Aquadam is now dewatering the work area at San Antonio SeaWorld for their newest roller coaster ride. An Aquadam has been used in many construction projects all around the U.S. and all around the world. Now give Aquadam a call, 707-764-2119. You can look them up online at aquadam.net. You can find them on Facebook at Aquadam Inc. You call them up, you email them, you tell them Ed Opperman sent you, and they're going to take 10% off the price. Aquadam.net, 707-764-2119. If you find yourself in need of legal representation, it can be a very stressful time in your life. In my career, I have dealt with thousands of lawyers, I've dealt with thousands of law firms, and I can confidently recommend to you Keith M. Davidson at kmdlaw.com. Available 24 hours, 7 days a week. Just log into kmdlaw.com. That's kmdlaw.com. Or you can call toll-free 833-4KMD-LAW. That's 833-4KMD-LAW. Personal injury, wrongful death, STDs, sexual assault, car accidents. They handle it all efficiently and professionally. It doesn't matter how imposing the opposition may be, because the team at kmdlaw.com are battle-tested and fierce. They will not stop until justice prevails. Go to kmdlaw.com or call toll-free 833-4KMD-LAW. If you're in for the fight of your life, stop screwing around and contact KMD Law.
Before Epstein was the Franklin cover-up. Before that, the Finders. And long before that, the Cleveland street scandal. Pedogate Primer is a concise intro and overview of a growing child abuse epidemic worldwide. It features shocking instances of institutionalized and organizational pedophilia throughout history. Churches, cults, the world of arts and entertainment, the government, NGOs, charities, and major corporations are all complicit or culprits in many instances. Pedogate Primer delves into material that for many may seem like the stuff of conspiracy theories. For this reason, the book draws on academic resources, declassified documents, and other reliable sources, and steers clear of conjecture. Such shocking true stories need no embellishment.
It's the Opperman Report. And now, here is investigator Ed Opperman.
Okay, welcome back. Welcome back to the Opperman Report. I'm your host, private investigator Ed Opperman. You find me on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. And also, too, you can get a copy of my book, How to Become a Successful Private Investigator, if you go to Amazon.com. I just happened to go there. So I was telling somebody about the book, and I saw all these wonderful reviews. This is the best book on PI work I've ever read. Again, these aren't people who don't talk about the show or anything like that. I didn't recognize the names. There is a lot of good stuff in that book, I got to tell you, man. I know what I'm doing. That's one thing for sure. Anyway, a lot of good it's doing me. So like I was saying, make some notes or some things I want to tell you later on, Casey. And what was the other one? Okay, the book. Okay. So I'm telling you the story about Daniel Halseth and his beautiful wife, now ex-wife, ex-senator, Elizabeth Nicole Halseth. And she's no longer Halseth. She's married a new guy. I don't think this guy remarried, though. You know? So, for a while, she moved to Alaska. I don't know what happened with the kids, who had custody of the kids during her trip to Alaska. But who knows, right? Who knows? Daniel Halseth had one daughter who today is 16 years old. Her name is Sierra Halseth. And I believe she's the one in that video. In the little bathrobe there, 8 or 9 years old, shivering, after taking a bath or a shower. Or maybe going to the pool, who knows, I had the sound off, I didn't listen to it. It's heartbreaking to see. In the past year, not that long, months we're talking, she met 18-year-old Anthony Guerrero. And you can Google this kid and look at his picture. He's nothing to look at. I'll tell you that. This guy's nothing to look at. He's already going bald, 18 years old, got those dead eyes, that dumb look special on his face. 18-year-old kid. And his 16-year-old girl was in love. Oh, I love you, Anthony. Oh, Sierra, I love you. I'll do anything for you. I'll do anything for you. Oh, I'll die for you. Oh. Hey, we've all said that crap, right? Hey. Well, these two lovebirds meet in the past year, and they had a plan to run away to California, to Los Angeles. And somehow the dad got wind of this, and he told the boy's mother, and both parents agreed, well, it's better off these kids don't see each other anymore. Now, that always works, right? That always works. And right after this, young Anthony Guerrero's mother told him, stay away from that Sierra girl, she's no good. He ran away from home. Okay? And then these two came up with a plan. What we're going to do is we're going to steal my dad's debit card. Okay? And we're going to go hit all the ATMs. I know his PIN. You know? He told me because he trusts me. You know? Thank God I never had any kind of problems like this with my kid. Because she could get away with this. Okay? If my kid ever went nuts, ever took me down, I'm done, man. No one's ever catching it. So the kids come up with this plan. They're going to empty out the bank account. They're going to take off to Los Angeles and get jobs. You know, and find a place. You know, and we're going to live our lives without our parents. I'll go work at KFC, and you can work, you know. So the bank sees there's so many ATMs within a 20-minute period or whatever. They flag the account. They're no longer going to take any money out of the account. Somehow along the way, we don't know all the facts yet. These kids are going to start confessing, and you know, you're in jail a week or two. That love, you know, I'll do anything, kind of, you know, wears off when reality comes back in, you know, into your life. And somehow Daniel winds up stabbed. Okay. And then these two kids come up with the plan. Well, what we'll do is let's dismember the body. Let's cut up the body. So young Anthony Guerrero goes to Home Depot. You know, the one right next door. You know, let's make it easy for the cops. I'll go in there, and I'm going to buy at the same time a chainsaw, a circular saw, some extra blades, and a hacksaw. No, a handsaw. Now, you can just imagine, you know, an 18-year-old and a 16-year-old, a 16-year-old girl, you know, now has to help cut up her dad's arms and legs and stuff like that. And it's not as easy as one might think. And it's even cut through a leg of lamb, you know, or a raw, what's that thing, a roast beef, you know. So they try to cut away, and they're not getting very far. And I guess it was around this time that they realized, well, what we got to do is, first of all, look at this mess. We got to get some bleach and clean it up. So they went to Winco. I know exactly where that Winco is. There's only one in Las Vegas. It's in Henderson. I used to go there all the time. It's a workers-owned company. It's a socialist company. Socialist, you know, that never works. Okay. You know, that, you know, concept. And they're in there and they're on video too. She's in there on video, not him. And just think why. Probably because he's so covered in blood. He's out there waiting in the car for her to come back out. He's even taking a shower, you know, and change. Did he have a change of clothes with him? Think of all these details. So she goes in there, she buys 2 gallons of bleach, which they could have bought at the Home Depot, but at the time they didn't know they were going to need it. And a gallon of juice, orange juice. And maybe they're going to make screwdrivers, these kids, you know, give them some courage to go back to cutting and chopping and sawing. Her own father. So they gave up. They couldn't do it, you know. And even in the report, it says that there was so much human tissue and human flesh in the chainsaw grinds, you know, that I guess after a while, you know, it's just too slippery and can't go through the meat, the flesh. So the next plan is, well, then get lighter fluid. Not even, you know, gasoline or charcoal lighter, you know, you'd think, you know, someone would get, if you wanted to burn something. No, they get lighter fluid. Probably the least effective. Because you could, we would put lighter fluid on our pant leg and light it on fire in class in school. When I was in high school. I don't know what high school you guys went to. But that's what we did. you know? Because we all had our lighters on us because you were allowed to smoke in school back in those days. You had a smoking room where you could smoke, but you couldn't play poker. They drew the line there. You weren't allowed to play poker in the smoking room. But, of course, we did anyway. So they give up on the dismembering. And they decide they're going to set fire to the body and the house. But, of course, this lighter fluid doesn't get much going there. And Daniel's mother called down to Las Vegas. She hadn't heard from him in a couple of days. She got worried. And they got a hold of the landlord. The cops get a hold of the landlord, do a well check. Cops get a hold of the landlord. And cops go in there. You can read the report. And they talk about smelling the lighter fluid. And they can see the chainsaw and the handsaw covered in blood and the circular saw with extra blades. But no Sierra and no boyfriend, Anthony. And by the way, and sometimes they call this kid Aaron Guerrero, sometimes they call him Anthony Guerrero, so who knows. And while the police were there, poor Anthony's mother shows up looking for Anthony because he's been missing for 2 days. And I looking for my son. Grown man, 18 years old, you know, can join the Army, fight in combat, 18 years old. You know, they can join the Marines and fight in combat, 18 years old. But no, the mother loves his son, and she goes looking for him. The last place he would be with that girl, Sierra. But they're not there. And the car's not there. Well, they didn't go to Los Angeles. They went to Utah. They barely made it 1 day before they got caught. Probably because they were covered in blood while they were driving. And plus, you know, a lot of people think, well, you know, if you're in that area, you're going to get lost by going to Vegas, you know. But there's one road in, one road out, and up to Utah and back, one road, 2 lanes. It's so easy for the cops to sit there and see your car come by and catch you. You know, it's the last place you want to go and mix in with the crowd and get lost. You know, it doesn't happen that way. The fugitive squad in Vegas is very, very effective in catching, and the U.S. Marshals there in catching people. That's where they caught that Warren Jeffs. They went north to Utah. Yes. So, there's no confession yet, but it's coming. And we'll hear all the details of this. So when you meet a lot of people and you know a lot of people, you know a lot of people who come across tragedy in their life and scandal and dysfunction, you know, and because of my ability, you know, my uncanny way of talking to people, as Pastor Mercer said, you know, I know about the things behind the scandal and the tape and stuff like that too as well. Hey, so that's why we call the show Dazed and Dismembered, or Thanks for the Dismemberies. Oh boy, well that's a story for the record books, you know. And here these kids, 16 and 18, fell in love and now their life is over. And as we tell this story here and I chuckle about it, they're sitting in a jail cell tonight in Las Vegas. Clark County Detention Center. Know exactly where they are, what those jails look like, what those rooms look like. They're not fun places to be. Not for a 16-year-old girl and not for an 18-year-old boy. Okay. You know, Anthony's going to be approached soon and said, hey, listen, you know, you got to stick with this group of people here. And if we get into a fight, you have to fight too. You know, and if he doesn't obey, they do this thing where they take you into the room and they're all punching you at the same time. It's a serious jail, Clark County Detention Center. It's CCDC. Very serious jail for an 18-year-old and a 16-year-old to be on a Friday night in Las Vegas. Okay. Well, there's a lot of stuff going on, too. First of all, this whole thing with this Russian collusion things came out. All kinds of sanctions now from Mr. Biden. I'm going to take my time on that because, you know, if I had a nickel for every time someone said, Ed still believes the Russian hoax. Well, yeah, I do. I do. Because it's real. And it's obvious and it's clear. All of us, Roger Stone just got charged again tonight. It's just a lawsuit over some $2 million in taxes he hasn't paid. But there could be some criminal penalties on that coming too. And then, of course, there's no shortage of Matt Gaetz stuff. just gets deeper and deeper with him. In my own world, I got a lot of things going on. One thing is I'm going to be mentioned in a book about Epstein. And a couple of things in there, is going to be my quote about how the high school, the Lafayette High School that Epstein went to, was like Welcome Back, Kotter. Now, the line's been stolen from me since by Levine in his book, but I'm going to get credit for it this time. And a little bit of discussion about my work on the Epstein case. The one that everyone knows about. By the way, too, if you go back, if you listen to them, I did some repeats this week, and there's one about Kevin L. Child's Play, and about Max Spears. I hint around. That was the first show. That was the first show I did after getting hired on the Epstein case. And I hint around about it on it. You can go back and hear it. Now, listening back to that show, I think I conflated Max Spears with one of the other super soldiers who might have told me that story about the pistol and the 22. But I told a whole bunch of stories about Max Spears. If you don't know who Max Spears is, this crazy story about this guy, this kid who claimed he went to Mars and he was a super soldier and all kinds of crazy stuff. And then he was, he died some kind of overdose in Poland taking Polish Valium. Or, bizarre story. And the next show I'm doing right now, we spent a whole hour talking about Keno. Nobody's killing us. I had direct involvement with the litigation involving Aquino, okay? He knows who I am. He knew who I was and stuff like that. And never tried to kill me. So it's nonsense. Hey, so you got that there. Now, also, too, there's a magazine article coming out by Casey Gain Magala, where he's going to quote me about my experiences with Al Sharpton, Reverend Al Sharpton. Because you remember last week I was talking about how Casey Gain came up with that information about how Sharpton was CIA as well. He's got a ton of stuff, man. Sharpton was all over the Caribbean. He was in Rwanda when all that was going on. So Sharpton, definitely a lot of stuff overseas, man, that none of us have just been under the radar that people can check out and see for yourself. The guy's been out there, man, way more than we realized. So I told a couple little stories there, too. It's going to be in this article. Let's see what else is going on. I think I mentioned to you about going to Amazon and leaving a review for me there about my book, How to Become a Successful Private Investigator. I would really appreciate that. And, of course, as always, if you can help out with Patreon. Oh, I know what I need, too, man, because we're at the end of the show, if you haven't noticed. I need a really good web designer. I know a lot of guys out there listening to my show do this kind of work. I can pay you. Okay, if you want to volunteer, great. But I can pay you. So I need an Opperman, a PI website, and maybe some adjustments too to Opperman Report at Gmail at the website too. Some changes to that too. It's on Squarespace. It's all shitty. So if you're out there and do this kind of work, get a hold of me because I have a lot of developments going on. I've had a lot of really good news this week in a lot of different areas of my life. For a change. And I'm heading up to D.C. to pick up Vic. I'm coming back so I won't be as lonely as I've been here down there in this miserable town down here where I am. I got up today. You know what, man? I really can't complain that much. I got up today to get my coffee and my bagel. And I said, you know what? Let me drive to the beach. And I drove down to Bradenton Beach. And then I drove up to Holmes Beach, it's another 10, 15 minutes away. Then I drove to Anna Maria Island. I went out there. And I said, you know what? I've been looking at this area, Apollo Beach and Baha'i Beach. Let me go check out those areas, about 30, 40 minutes away. Drove all the way north, past St. Petersburg, up there, checked it out. By the way, too, the signal on that station, by the way, on WWPR, 1490 AM down here in the Tampa Bay area. If you want to advertise down here, man, I was all the way up, man, near Clearwater today. And that signal goes all the way up. And I know it goes all the way down to Venice. That's a clear, sharp signal, man. I don't know why there aren't more big people on there. Because it's kind of funny. But one of the hosts on that station listens to the show for sure. Because I hear him talking about it the next day. And so he was like off the air on a vacation for a couple of weeks or something. And while he was off, was getting these emails with, and you know how you can kind of hear somebody's voice, you know, you hear him on the radio, then you hear him in an email. The guy was heckling me on the email for a couple of weeks there. So supposed to be on vacation, but still hanging on my every word because I have an uncanny way of speaking to people. Okay, so coming up after this, like I said, is Subliminal Jihad. We're talking about Colonel Michael Aquino and his connections to QAnon, which I was talking about last week. And we clarified that thing, too, about how I thought that Colonel Aquino represented Watkins in a lawsuit. We clarified that we couldn't verify that. I got that information about 10 minutes before the show and a half hour before the show, and I threw it out there thinking it had been vetted by some serious people. Turns out, and even Mr. Jihad came out, Mr. Dimitri, his name is, came back to me and says, you know, Ed, we looked that up, but we don't think it's can't confirm that any longer. So we kind of threw that away. And then coming after that, we have Bryce Regal talking about his suspicions about a suspicious death of this alternative rock band lead singer. And then tomorrow you'll hear the Altar Boys, and then that show about that Vegas car dealer. Coming up this week, I got Brace Belden from TrueAnon podcast, very popular podcast. They make about $75,000 a month. How do you like that? $75,000. I can't even bring myself to go click on it and see how much it went up. How much they're making over there. They're doing very well. And that Bad Barbie too. Who's that name? Burgle. I forget her first name. The one who was on Dr. Phil. Cash Me Outside. How about that? In one day, in April, she made $1 million on her OnlyFans. And you got to see these sick creeps, man, saying, I've been waiting 5 years for these pictures. She was 13 years old. You know, what are people thinking, man? You know? And by the way, this Matt Gaetz thing, man, it's confirmed that one of these girls he took down to Bahamas just turned 18 during that trip. Okay? She was like 18 in 1 month, which means he knew her. Had to have known her. A 17-year-old kid's going to go to Bahamas with a stranger? I don't think so. So he had to know her for a while. I think a lot's going to come out of that. I can't see them. There's too much money involved in those kind of lawsuits. I can't see him paying out all that money quietly. One of these is going to hit the fan. Trust me on that. Trust me on that. By the way, too, all of our sponsors, man, guys, if you want to, if you have a lawsuit out there, you want to get a hold of Keith Davidson Law Firm, kmdlaw.com, get a hold of me, man. I'll help you put together the case for him. The Aquadam commercial, right? We got hurricane season coming up right now. It's not just for big businesses or cities or countries or your municipalities and stuff like that. If you have a church or a small business and you don't want to get flooded, you can get a cheaper version of that Aquadam. And if you mention Ed Opperman in the Opperman Report, call me directly, man. I'll put you in touch with the owner of the company. Okay, get a hold of me. I'll put you right in touch, man. Same thing with Donnie Mays, my credit repair guy. My credit is up to 765. Excellent credit because of Donnie Mays. Get a hold of me. I'll put you in touch with Donnie Mays from Dynamic Solutions too. The guy did great work for me. All these sponsors are people who love this show, who are now friends of mine. We just, talk off the air and stuff like that. But anyway, we're out of time. Okay, coming up next after this is Mr. Dimitri, Subliminal Jihad, talking about Colonel Michael Aquino. Thank you so much, guys. I love you. I'll see you next week. And now a word from our sponsors.
Before Epstein was the Franklin cover-up. Before that, the Finders. And long before that, the Cleveland Street Scandal. Pedogate Primer is a concise intro and overview of a growing child abuse epidemic worldwide. It features shocking instances of institutionalized and organizational pedophilia throughout history. Churches, cults, the world of arts and entertainment, the government, NGOs, charities, and major corporations are all complicit or culprits in many instances. Pedogate Primer delves into material that for many may seem like the stuff of conspiracy theories. For this reason, the book draws on academic resources, declassified documents, and other reliable sources, and steers clear of conjecture. Such shocking true stories need no embellishment.
If you find yourself in need of legal representation, it can be a very stressful time in your life. In my career, I have dealt with thousands of lawyers, I've dealt with thousands of law firms, and I can confidently recommend to you Keith M. Davidson at kmdlaw.com. Available 24 hours, 7 days a week. Just log into kmdlaw.com. That's kmdlaw.com. Or you can call toll-free 833-4KMD-LAW. That's 833-4KMD-LAW. Personal injury, wrongful death, STDs, sexual assault, car accidents. They handle it all efficiently and professionally. It doesn't matter how imposing the opposition may be, because the team at kmdlaw.com are battle-tested and fierce. They will not stop until justice prevails. Go to kmdlaw.com or call toll-free 833-4KMD-LAW. If you're in for the fight of your life, stop screwing around and contact KMD Law. The Opperman Report is brought to you by Aquadam.net. You can give them a call at 707-764-2119. A flooded home is never easy to deal with. You're left with the mess to clean up, the insurance companies to deal with, and not to mention all the memories, the precious memories that are lost in the flood. You can never replace those. And Aquadam can be a tool in your arsenal to protect your home and property from the floodwaters. The cofferdam is filled with water to control water and is reusable as long as it's taken care of. It can protect your home or business from rising floodwaters like a dam, but without the beavers. It can also be used in construction. If you need an area to be dewatered, an Aquadam can do the job. An Aquadam was used at SeaWorld in Orlando for the Mako roller coaster ride during the coaster's construction by dewatering the work area. An Aquadam is now dewatering the work area at San Antonio SeaWorld for their newest roller coaster ride. An Aquadam has been used in many construction projects all around the U.S. and all around the world. Now give Aquadam a call, 707-764-2119. You can look them up online at aquadam.net. You can find them on Facebook at Aquadam Inc. You call them up, you email them, you tell them Ed Opperman sent you, and they're going to take 10% off the price. Aquadam.net, 707-764-2119.